Hello, my name is Victoria Santana, and I chose the title, Don't Kick Us When We're Down. Imagine never being shown how to swim, and then being thrown into the ocean. Someone watches you struggling from the shore, but doesn't offer help. Instead, they just critique you and punish you for not doing it correctly. It sounds mercenary and cold-hearted, doesn't it? This exaggerated, hypothetical situation, I used to inoculate the unintentional harm caused indirectly by some of the public school disciplinary actions instated. My younger brother struggled his whole life through public schools and keeping up with the work required of him, and he would constantly get penalized and regress in his academics due to this for mere pettiness, such as forgetting his IDs, coming in late, and a lot of these he didn't even have a factor in, because a lot of times it was just due to just home situations where we didn't have a car, some mornings where we just always go late. However, due to these minor allegations, many of which he had no factor in, he would be taken from classes in his school and put in in-school suspensions and only be able to make up half the work. Additionally, he'd be required to stay after school for detentions and miss hours he'd be working on, they continually building homework. As future educators, it is important that we look at all students equally and fairly and realize that we have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, and we should judge them all fairly. Our goal should be to guide students from all roads to success and not be part of the obstacles that they have to climb over to reach it. It is time to have a realignment of goals in the St. Tammany Parish public school system and revise their disciplinary methods of correction and chiefly detention. So we will first qualify the current rules that are instated in public schools that they adhere to currently, and what actions elicit which level of disciplinary action. Then explain whether detention works or not, whether it's effective or not. And last, we will look at ways of revision by explaining a few alternative ideas to put in place at these detentions. Let's look together at these 3 points in more detail. So at this point, you're probably trying to remember all the disciplinary guidelines you had in high school, as it's been at least a year for most of us. In the very least, let's see, well, very fortunately, St. Tammany Parish has their discipline guidebook for public school system posted fully and easily accessible on Google. So right here on the side, these are actually all the schools that would be affected by this new statement of changing. They have a lot of schools that are already affected by this PBS. It's called the Positive Behavior Support. And all schools in St. Tammany, while they all have their own disciplinary records and their own disciplinary ways of adhering to their own things, they all have to follow this guideline, this backbone. They have to instate it in some way. And this is Positive Behavior Support is further explained on Association for Positive Behavior Support's webpage as being a set of research-based strategies used to increase the quality of life and decrease problem behavior by teaching new skills and making people change in person's environment. One of the strategies is to use detention as a means of correction for the list of grievances they listed there. And they had at least 26 to 29 things you could do wrong in school that would give you detention, but some of which included disruptive behavior, persistent tardiness, running in a building, etc. To refine this information, all schools in the parish have some individuality, that is true, but all of them have to utilize PBS, the Positive Behavior Support, as the backbone of their guidelines. It is implemented with the thought of creating an effective learning environment. These rules were implemented for the betterment of school environment and to promote effective learning. They did try with a positive reinforcement thing. They did try this to have an effective environment first. However, let us look to see if detention can be considered one of the efficient disciplinary methods. Louanne Johnson, in her article, Down with Detention, describes the use of it as almost a catch-all cure for all student misbehaviors. And it basically equalizes it to using one medicine for every physical ailment. With detention, a student is missing important class time and is subject to falling further behind if allowed to make up the work, as he will do so without being instructed on how. As a student is missing class in detention, the teacher will be teaching class, of course, and will not always be willing to reteach the material to somebody that is seen as a problem child and is already missing from misbehaving. So and as the teacher is not obligated to reteach the material, the students perceive the teacher frustration as dislike, and this causes the student to feel uncomfortable in the class and will act out, leading to a vicious cycle that provides absolutely no motivation for the student to apply himself to what seems an impossible class now. Ultimately, this will lead to the student falling behind, becoming more problematic, and correctly deciding that he would do better on his own. Enduring detention, and this alone could attest to the ineffectiveness of it. Order and structure are necessary for effective learning, as has been proven on numerous occasions. But is it so important that we are willing to sacrifice the student themselves to maintain it? The above situation is just one of the many reasons detention needs to be revised on the disciplinary system, and here are some alternatives to take its place. Derek Bolak suggests in his article, Still Giving Detention, that one preventive measure could be starting from the elementary stage. We take for granted sometimes that all students know how to act in a classroom. Sometimes we have students that come from private schools or come from other walks of life, and that are not always shown how to act in a classroom. And so, we can do it by just acting out, and he did it by actually having another teacher present with him, and they would show people how to do it incorrectly and correctly. And they would say, here, this is what we expect of you, and this is what we don't expect you. This is what you shouldn't be doing. And from the elementary stage, they know how to act from that point on in public schools. And second, instead of a lunch detention, they could hold a lunch workshop. In this, the student would go to a counselor's office with his food already there, and the counselor would talk for about 15 minutes. And they would discuss or write about the takeaways from this detention, why the student was, why he got the detention, why he was there, and maybe what he learned from it, kind of thing. So that way the student feels like he was heard, he didn't feel like he was just getting punished for no reason or whatever. He feels it doesn't seem like not fair or anything. He has a way to say his side of the story and the other side of the story, kind of thing. And they see who's right. They say, like, hey, let's talk about this. Let's learn something from this. And they would discuss or write about the takeaways. And this at least the students getting the why behind his punishment, and leads to a relationship with the counselor as well, which also further helps the students, because a lot of the problematic students have something going on behind the scenes, whereas it is easier and better for them to have a counselor on hand to talk to. Third is to have the students write and reflect on why they were selected for discipline. Instead of just throwing it away, actually read it and discuss with the student. As many of us had before detentions, we are just sent to write out like just textbook pages or just something meaningless kind of thing, and then we know that it never gets read at that point. We just throw it away and everything. So this would give the opportunity to feel heard and truly reflect on the situation. Lastly, there's rewarding positive behavior. Sometimes we don't even realize that while there are some problematic students, yes, with like almost 99%, the rest of the students are all good. We should actually start giving them incentive to do better. Start rewarding people that are, without even having an incentive or anything, are still maintaining good behavior. Some great ideas he lists in the article were giving athletic passes, partner with local businesses for discounts and freebies to distribute, and reach out to sport team for tickets. So if the school is authentic in their care for the students and offer worthwhile incentives, students will respond with genuineness and authenticity as well. So as you've heard and understood now, revision editing out detention from the disciplinary handbook is not just desired, but is extremely necessary in the St. Tammany Parish public school system. The disciplinary guidebook is based off of the PBS, the Public Behavior Support, a group of strategies meant to maintain a positive leading environment. However, as we have seen, not all their methods are effective. Consequently, detention needs to be excluded from the disciplinary regimen. Unfortunately, my brother had to be on the receiving end of this unintentional consequence of the public system before this problem was seen and rectified. Compassion and understanding is something that we should have foremost in all our minds when dealing with the kids and adults alike in our future education fields. And once again, we are supposed to guide our children to success, not be the obstacles they have to overcome to reach it. Let's see. And that would conclude my speech. Thank you. Thank you.